Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. In our last class, we've been discussing the Ibn Khaldun's biography, right? So we talked about him. We learned that his brief, his background, and his life, from where he learned about his ancestors, and then the place that he worked, and we specifically discussed the three phases of his life, right? That's quite important for the study. And then we discussed especially the book that he wrote. We talked about entirely the book Kitab al-Ibar, right? We talked about the universal history, and we talked about how many sections, chapters it has, and what are the chapters are all about, right? And also we've been able to talk about some of his economic ideas and his analysis in labor and value. We talked about in demand and supply, right? So inshallah, we will be continuing to discuss a few more his ideas, his economic ideas. We'll start with his price. When it comes to price, he says that of course the custom duties will rise the price of the goods. That's because of the import and export, and also it's because of the densely populated, and because of the full of luxury required, so there will be a great demand for such commodities. So based on that, the supply has to be catered, and also the rich will pay the high prices for these goods. Sometimes we see people they go to specific place to get some items for cheaper price, but you don't see everybody do that. You will be noticing sometimes they don't have the proper time to go, because they don't have proper opportunity to go to that kind of place to get the cheaper price, the cheaper items, the commodities. Instead they go to the nearest one, and people, according to their need, they do for it. Because of course if they travel to certain place like market, what we call today, let's say you go to wet market, the price is different. You go to the nearest supermarket, then there's a price is different, right? So it's because of the people's comfortableness and convenience. So he talks about all those things, and he also says that industrial goods and services are also the services are also very, very dearer to prosperous districts. And he gives three reasons why those industrial goods and services are dearer, why it is unfavored. Because first of all, because of the greater need, right? The second thing is because of the ease with which a livelihood may be earned, which means that the abundance of foodstuffs in towns, and it will make more craftsmen to accept. For example, when there is a livelihood in a city, you will see that many people who comes to city, work in city, they spend differently than the same types of craftsmanship, the one who do in rural areas. So that there are differences. This is all I can talk about it, even in some other chapters also covering up, talking about the urban and rural areas. It's quite amazing because he gives example for each and everything. So I said it's quite simple and easy to read his book. I tell you, it's quite simple language, and also his analogy with regard to his the places that he been to, because he was in Fez, he was in Tunis, he was in Al-Qahira, Cairo, right? So he observed, like I told you earlier, his methodology is the most important factor, for his Kitab al-Ibar. What was his So that is observation, you know. From there, actually, he tried to put everything together, and you know, he talks about every single topics that today it is actually a most important influential topic in economic history, right? So he says about that, you know, the three reasons. First of all, he said there's a greater need. The second is actually is for the ease of the livelihood. The third is actually because of the presence of the large number of rich people. Because if there is no rich people presented in a city, the industry will not expand it. Am I right? Because you need people. That's the reason why those industries are in capital cities. That's because most of the rich people lives in capital cities. So he brings the whole scenario. I really enjoy reading his book. You know, this is nothing actually today that you and me can see. You know, you and me watch one documentary, we can clearly understand the whole thing. All right, but we are talking about the things 700 years ago. 700 years ago, there is no single book written in this manner. There is no documentary. There is no talk on this. But he was able to talk about all this. It's like a one man study group. You know, he did all the studies and then putting it into perspectives. And then the next one, he talks about the interdependence of the prices itself. You know, how the price itself. He talks about if you know, he says that if the price is very low, you know, what today we call affordable price. Yeah, we call it affordable price. We don't call it low price. Why? Because yeah, if it can become low price because of the subsidiary of the government, you know, I don't have any problem with that. If the government is making it to you, like let's say petrol, it is very quite good affordable price. That's because of the subsidiary. It goes to everything, right? Oil, sugar, and whatsoever. But other than that, if there is a product which is very low in price, then consider, for example, he says this. Consider, for example, there is an agricultural produce, and there is a cheapness in every goods that comes from the farmers. Just imagine what happens if it is very cheap, and that farmers is actually supplying to you, and you are giving them very low money, low profit, low cost. Just imagine how what is the motivation that the farmers should work even better. What happens that he brings the theory that if there is a if there is a cheapness in a goods, it will lead to deterioration in the condition. Then the profits will shrink, or the profits will disappear. Not only that, the farmer's capital will cease to grow, or grow only very slowly, which will definitely will lead them to the poverty. And this is exactly what's happening, especially my country in India. Back in India, I think you know what's happening. Like recently, that we had a farmers, you know, this rally everywhere, the strike everywhere. You know, people like walking like 300, 500 kilometers all the way to the capital city, and they wanted to fight for the justice because of, you know, because because for them it's quite easy to walk 300 miles because they have nothing. They have nothing to lose. They only have the land, and definitely no one can, you know, take the land and run away. The land is there always. Other than that, they don't have anything. It's like open house. They just open house. There's nothing inside, and then they come all the way. This is what happens when when a corporate company is only offering, because the condition was like this. They said your products corporates will buy. You don't have to sell it into the market directly. So these are the one of the conditions. Yeah, let me bring it to you. Why there was a fight? Your products or whatever the crops, the government will buy from you through the corporate companies. The corporate companies will fix the price, and you are not supposed to sell to any individual market or individual owners, individual parties. You cannot. So now the thing is, the government says there is a guarantee that we buy. Of course we will buy, but who will fix the price? The corporate companies will fix the price, and then the corporate company will sell to other people, will sell to people, will sell to supermarket, will sell to the other markets. So what happens now that there is no motivation that, you know, these farmers are the one who supposed to get the profit, they are not getting it. So this is all surprisingly, you know, Ibn Khaldun talks about it earlier. You know, he also says, you know, the same thing will occur if you put give low prices, for example sugar, honey, clothing. It will lead to a slackening in business in these goods. Therefore, an excessively low price is injurious to dealings. He says that. Okay. The next topic that he talks about, I'm covering so much actually, which is actually some of them in the slides, some of them is not. So I want you to concentrate here and then go back to the slides and read the remaining things. Yeah. The next one is actually, he talks about, this is amazing, you know. He says wealth is a social product. This is quite amazing, you know. I'm really surprised to see this. He says that, yeah, through this argument of Ibn Khaldun, you can actually tell that Ibn Khaldun was a capitalist, because this is quite clear, obvious that, you know, he says that, you know, the concentration of real property and estate. He talks about the estate, the land and everything. Whether you gradually building up, or you are getting it through inheritance. These are the real estate is actually wealth of the society, right? Because when this real estate becomes once more attractive, then actually the people will have the motivation to buy and sell. So he talks about, he brings the terms that the fluctuation of the real estate market. He brings that. He is actually favoring to that fluctuation of the real estate market. It has to go down, because if it is only down, or if it is only going up, only rising, it's not low, going down, then there is no you know, motivation into trading. The trading comes only with a fluctuation, right? When the price has to go. For example, now you know that what was the price of the land, of price of the real estate pre-COVID and post-COVID, right? You can have your own calculations. So this is all Ibn Khaldun talks about it. And then he also says about money. When we talk about money, of course, according to Ibn Khaldun, money is not wealth, right? Like everybody else, like Imam al-Ghazali, Ibn Hazm and others, al-Razi. At the same time, he talks about money as a measure, and also he talks about the store of value. You know, maybe this point, I think earlier Imam al-Ghazali or Ibn Taymiyyah, they didn't talk about the store of value, right? I discussed with you, remember about that. They only talk about the measurement and the medium of exchange, right? But Ibn Khaldun talks about the store of value, because he says this is what God actually created, these two precious metals, because until today we have this gold and silver. You know, when I read the word silver, I was actually I wanted to actually share with you about my it's not my personal, it is my cultural experience, not only experience, cultural habit and also practice. Do you have any other names for ringgit other than ringgit? I know you call it ringgit, right? So 1 ringgit, 2 ringgit. Do you have any other names for it, Adura?
I know that areas in the Pantai Timur, the East Coast, they call it Rial.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. When I was in Kelantan, they say Ria.
yeah,
Satu,
yeah,
satu Ria, 2 Ria. Yeah. So
yeah.
the Ria is actually what? Referring to Rial?
I have no idea.
Is there any particular meaning for the word Ria?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's mostly in the East Coast.
East Coast, yeah. Okay. Is there any particular meaning, the literal meaning of ringgit? Do you know that? What is the literal meaning of ringgit? You know, there must be, for every language, every word, there is a literal meaning. There is a cultural meaning. I mean, technical meaning, right? What is it actually? A ringgit means what? Anybody knows the ringgit? What does it mean, ringgit? I didn't know. I'm just asking you. Do you have it? Because it's your bahasa. I think maybe I thought you know the meaning, or maybe there is no meaning. I'm not sure. Is there anybody that know about the meaning of a ringgit? Anybody know about the usage of ringgit? Since when it came? Like some.
I just did a quick Google and it
Ah,
said in terms of etymological, it refers to obsolete term of jagged in Malay and originally used to refer to a serrated edges of silver Spanish dollars.
come again. Can you repeat again that? That is the point I wanted to raise. Yeah.
So
What
the
was
word
it?
ringgit is an obsolete term for jagged silver or referring to a serrated edges of silver Spanish dollars.
Okay. You know why? Because I didn't know this, what you were saying until now. Because according to my culture, like if you ask any mama, people here in Malaysia, so they always say welly. Have you heard oru velli, rendu velli? You know, which means that one, two. You know, instead of saying ringgit, you know, in our household, you know, if you go to any mama shop, they use the word velli. You know, if you understand what I'm saying, velli velli is actually the direct translation of silver. Yeah, because velli back in India, if you go there and you say velli, they don't understand. They say, what are you saying? Why are you saying velli? Because velli means which is like gold, right? Back in India, if I go there, I must say 1 rupee, 2 rupee, right? Because they use the word rupees, rupee. Like back in Indonesia, they call rupiah, right? So we call rupees, 1 rupee, 2 rupee. But over there, I cannot say 1 velli, 2 velli. But in Malaysia, within our, the mama fellow here, the friends, Indian Muslims, if you go there and you talk to them, they know about the word velli. So now I was thinking there must be a reason why they call it velli, because the word silver comes with the word ringgit. So somehow it is interrelated. Yeah. Okay. That's a kind of observation, by the way. Yeah.
It also mentioned in the Wikipedia page, especially among Tamil communities.
I see. They mentioned the word velli, right?
Yeah.
MashaAllah, good. I didn't read, but that's my observation. I'm not trying to become Ibn Khaldun, yeah? I'm just putting my observations, by the way, but it's already there. Right? So this is how, I think Ibn Khaldun also did this. So he was there, he talks about it. So he talks about the measure and the store of value. So, of course, he talks about the only these two metals has been created by the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, sometimes store it is only with the intention of acquiring gold and silver. By the way, when he talks about money and wealth, he doesn't say that money must be wealth. Money is not wealth, because society must, because he consider any precious things, precious metals, whether it is in the forms of wealth, whether it is a gold, silver, or precious stones, it's all comes from minerals, right? It's a minerals. But like for example, iron, copper, lead, or those other material all become minerals, right? But remember, When it was there under the ground, under the soil, it was there. It was not actually been exchanged. It was not actually been. It never been used for the trade. But once the thing comes out and then you make it into something, then only it becomes a value. That's because Ibn Khaldun says it's because of the human labor. So human labor has been attached to the value of every gold and silver. So when he talks about the price paid for it, it's because of the different societies they need it, and also when he talks about the wealth, he interestingly bringing so many countries. For example, he says that the money, if it is a wealth, it will be stored, it will become like ornament or jewelry, and nobody is going to make a trade out of it. The money has to be something is always moving around. That's the reason why in Arabic it is called mal. It's actually mala yamilu mailan, meaning to say it has to lean to somebody, leaning. So now he talks about the country like North Africa, and also the country like the East, or even he talks about the Far East like India and China, or the East like Egypt, Syria, and Sham and Persia. So he talks about that people come and they still want to interact and do the trading, just because there is different values among different countries. You may have gold in your country, but there must be there is a particular need to obtain that gold. But if you go back to other countries like China and India, they have different purpose of attaining the gold. So this is how he is trying to say that money is not a wealth, but it has to be something. Because if money had been so abundant in their own lands, they would not have brought their goods to others to be exchanged for money. Indeed, they would have dispensed entirely with other people's money. So this is what the statement that Ibn Khaldun gives us. So this is quite interesting about he talks about money, and then he talks about the occupations. Yeah. And he talks about several kinds of occupation. I think not many scholars has covered 700 years ago, but today you may have it. Of course, you may expand based on this. Of course, we have so many labors and occupations today. So he talks about an occupation is the seeking and obtaining of means of livelihood. So now he says there is one way of doing is actually, he call it a rulership. All right, but it is not applicable for everybody. But this rulership is also a kind of earning, because they can actually tax forcibly or non-forcibly according to the customary law. It's known as a levying tax. So the levy and impost, all this actually a kind of occupation, but not for everybody, not in every time. He also mentioned that it is not every time. But the other three things, he talks about trade. Number 2 is a trade. Number 3, agriculture. Number 4, industry. The other 3 is actually everywhere. For example, when he talks about agriculture, he talks about hunting. He says that, this is another way of obtaining, for example, by preying on wild animals and killing them in the sea or land, which is called hunting, or by extracting the produce and domesticated animals, which is widely used by people, such as milk from cattle, silk from the silkworm, honey from the bees, all these kind of things. Or you do tending plants and trees, which is actually like using their fruits. It's called agriculture. Then he talks about, use of specific materials and known as craft. It's like obtained from human activities. As a human being, human activities, human capabilities, you can apply the use of specific materials. It's known as craft. For example, he talks about the craft. He says writing, carpentry, tailoring, weaving, horse riding, and so on. There are so many other things as well. Later he will be talking about, the precious one and non-precious one. And then he also says that, these four occupations are quite important: rulership, trade, agriculture, industry. I think even today, I think again, I don't think that there is something other than these four. Is there something that you can put outside these four? Uh, I can see rulership, of course. The government jobs will come under rulership. Am I right? And then you have trade, and then you have agriculture, and then you have industry. I think, is there anything that you want to put? I know this is 700 years old statement, but is there something you want to add on other than these four? I'm just asking you, is there anything that coming to your mind that you think you can put other than these four? What about this business in cloud, this online, like for example, Google, for example, all right? The cloud business, because today the cloud business is a great business, right? It can come under industry, right? One of the industries actually is software on hardware industries, cloud industries. I think everything can come inside this. So that's quite amazing. He also says that, agriculture is actually taught by our father, is actually Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. And then, the craftsmanship is actually taught by our another father, Idris alayhi salatu wasalam, so Prophet Idris. Prophet Idris was quite good in craftsmanship. Also, about Dawud alayhi salatu wasalam. He know how to design, and because it was quite easy for him to lean to make iron into something. That was actually, he was given that expertise. So, and then the next topic, he talks about the stages of economic development, whereby he talks about the first one will be the basic stage, which is actually agriculture, sowing and planting. The next one will be, the craftsmanship, whereby you need to supply for more people. Then the next one, in fact, when I read about Shah Waliullah Dehlavi, I think I always wish to talk about him in this class, but it is not in our course outline. But Shah Waliullah Dehlavi, when he wrote Hujjatullah al-Baligha, is a very great book. It talks about so many things, and there is one particular topic he says that al-irtifaqat. So irtifaq means, very simple in a way that you can understand. It comes for rafaqa, rifq. Rifq, rafaqa, the name Rafiq, right? Okay, the name Rafiq means you become friend to someone. It's like becoming friendly. So irtifaqat means, the literal meaning is actually, you use the sources of the universe, the resources of the universe, but friendly resources. I think it's quite familiar with. I studied that book when I was doing my undergraduate. It is one of my curriculum. I have to study that book during my undergraduate. It's a 2 volumes book, Hujjatul al-Baligha. Very, very difficult to understand the Arabic terms, but alhamdulillah, we managed to understand. So he talks about this irtifaqat is more into what today we call sustainable development. You use it, you use the resources, but in a friendly manner, so that you don't harm it. So this is where I think Shah Waliullah Dehlavi, who actually one of the great scholar of India, I think around 400 years ago he lived back in Delhi, and he also the person who brought the complete what they call it, the shahada, it is like, we call it Sanadul Hind, which means he is the one who brought officially the links, the what they call it, there must be a permission that you must get in order to bring hadith into a country. So he went officially, he went to Mecca and Medina, he learned from those ulama, and then he brought that hadith to India. And from there, I think, you know that India, the most of some of the universities in India is quite famous for hadith. One of them is actually Darul Uloom Deoband. I graduated from there. Actually, quite famous for hadith, especially because they dedicate their life to talk about hadith, whether sahih or da'if, they know better, and then they complete all 10 great compilations of hadith in 1 year. You have to be like, you know, you have to study like more, starting from subuh until 12 midnight. Your classes will be like that. From subuh until 12 midnight. Your break is only from Asr to Maghrib, which is actually back in India, it's only less than 1 hour. It's because back in India, they pray in Hanafi, they pray Asr very late, not like here today here in Malaysia early because of the Shafi'is according to Asr is according to Shafi'i, but back in India it's according to Hanafi you pray late. Like for example, now you pray 4:30 something, right? 4:45, but according to Hanafi waqt it's actually 5:30, 5:45. Then you have within 1 hour. So that is the only break they give. The remaining time all you have to study. So that's how they finish the entire 10 great compilation of hadith in 1 year. So that's how Shah Waliullah Dehlevi was actually the reason why the hadith was there in India, came to India officially. And he talks about this al-irtifaqat, meaning to say that he says 4 different level of stages. It's like he talks about a person has to live, has to find his livelihood by doing his own, what they call it? There is one term for it. It's called sustenance farming or something, or sustenance or sub. I'm sorry, I just forgot the name. You know, it's like you do your own crops. You live in a farming in a farming land, and then you just do your own. You have your own cattle, and then you have your own milk, and then you have your own vegetables, like, and then you have your own rice and everything. So it's like that kind of farming, right? And then the next step is actually cooperation with others, and then you make more food items for others. The next one is actually city. The next one is actually country. Then the next one is actually becoming Khalifa for the universe. So this is how Imam Shah Waliullah Dehlevi talks about it. He talks about as what Ibn Khaldun talks about. He says the stages of economic development. All right. Then and there are so many actually. He also talks about Ibn Khaldun talks about the principles of craft. He says the necessary craft, and then he says the honorable crafts. When it comes to necessary craft, he talks about agriculture, building, tailoring, carpentry, and weaving. Right? All these comes under necessary craft: agriculture, building, tailoring, carpentry, and weaving. When it comes to honorable one, right, the noble craft, he talks about. He includes midwifery. Midwifery is actually nursery. The child was born, and medicine. I mean nursery, like what we have today, and then writing, and then paper making. He also include singing. The singing also he include as a honorable, notable one, because he says that singing deals with the relation between voices and their presentation to human ears and the beautiful form. Yeah. So he also talks about medicine. So these are the things Sheikh Ibn Khaldun talks about it. And then of course he talks about the changes in the rate of taxation. He talks about the state expenditure on social services. He talks about the government should be like a market for goods and services. All right. So with that, mashallah, he covers so many things, but I want to finish with one of his last one of his topic, which is actually I like it very much. He talks about the large population, because this one has something to do with our COVID-19 situation. So I think I found interesting. So let us talk about it. Huh? Okay, where it comes. Okay, first of all, he has a different view on population, because Ibn Khaldun thinks that a large population will create wealth. So this is his first theory. All right. That's because he says you can see the differences between the rural area and urban areas, and you can see the wealth in rural area and urban areas. In fact, you know, even you will see that there will be water, and the rivers will be prosperly flowing, but still there will be very less people will be utilizing it. But you will see in urban areas there you won't see that kind of water flows, but still many people are able to utilize it. So that is the great thing because of the human. And he brings a very good word, actually I like it. He says that a large population can create wealth only through cooperative labor. So this is the word he uses, because maybe today you can change any other word. It's called cooperative labor, because this one will exceed by far the needs of the group. Okay, he says, for example, if there is a production of wheat, production of rice, or production of sugar, you see that the production itself need a group of people to do that, right? In fact, you know, if there is a blacksmith, there is not enough. One blacksmith cannot actually, or one carpenter cannot actually, or one tender cannot actually do all the job. So there is a need of, you know, I think you remember when I told you last time about China, for example, a country, most populated country like India and China. You will see that if you want to have one expertise, and there will be like full of stadium, because there are many expertise in one area, right? In some countries you go and ask for it, maybe there will be a couple of them in the room, but if you come to the country like most populated country, then you have more. So that's what actually population creates wealth. But by the way, it's not only about it. He also have a different opinion about these are the advantages. He talks about the advantages first, then let's talk about the disadvantages, and then let us see today what we are doing. All right. So these are advantages. He says about it will create wealth through cooperative labor, and the result of cooperative labor is to produce a quantity of food which is sufficient for many times the number of persons engaged in the work. And also cooperative labor more than satisfy the needs of those engaged in it. Consequently, when the inhabitants of a district or town devote their efforts to providing necessities, they find out that they need only part of their labor for that purpose. The rest of the labor is available for the production of luxuries or goods. So I think this is all actually, you know, brings more incomes. All right, because of the population, because of the cooperative labor, and then it brings more incomes, and that more incomes represent the value of labor that has been expended. So that therefore much labor is used, and its total value rises. So this is how a population can do in any city. You can clearly see that why you can clearly see, in fact, you know, he last time he was talking about country to country. He was giving some example of you know, Misr, I mean Egypt and Sham and Tunis and India and China. This time he gives examples of the cities. He mentioned the names like you know, Fez and Bubi, Tilmisan. These are the cities that he gives the example. So maybe let us put it in our own way, that put it like, for example, make it Kuala Lumpur as a city, like a big, great city, and then the other cities, like, you don't have to mention one. There are many other cities, and you can clearly see the differences. Yeah, why people coming to Kuala Lumpur, why there is a need. Yeah, so he says that all these, for example, this kind of value, when this value rises, you will have there will be an increase in prosperity, which will lead to further increase in economic activity, right? And that will lead into incomes and increasing luxuries. There will be new wants, new need and wants will come every single day, right? New industries will open up. I think this is all. It's like, someone who write today, I think it makes sense, because you have seen, because 20 years ago there was no phone, and today we are having phones, and because of we are having phones, how many new industries open? Just imagine. Just imagine, 20 years ago, who knows? 30 years ago, who knows all these new things about it, right? So today, many industries opens, right? Today, many technology has come to cater. So this is, for example, each and everything. For example, let's talk about safety and security. How many new industries are today, right? To protect you. Even the computer that you are using, we are using antivirus. It's a product which actually giving you a security from the malfunction, from the virus, from the firewall, or all these things. And then you are using your phone, and there is a unconditional, I mean, an unlimited kind of services available for that kind of phone, right? And then the services you are using through the phone. Now the new industry, like sharing economy has come. Who knows about sharing economy will come like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? So today we are all doing it. We are selling through e-commerce, we are doing e-hailings and these things, so many. So it's not that big deal for someone to write about seeing what's happened today. But how come someone can write this 700 years ago? What I mean by that, because I think most of you know about these scholars like Adam Smith, or you talk about John Stuart Mill, or you talk about Thomas Robert Malthus or David Ricardo. These are the scholars actually considered as fathers of economics today, right? These are the scholars. If you look at their timeline, it will be only like they were born in end of 18th century, not even 17th, end of 18th century, and then they lived in 19th century. So we are talking about these scholars like 17th century, not even 17th, 18th century to 19th century scholars. So within like 200 to 300 years. So if someone can talk about all these and can observe, that must be. So he gives an example of the cities, and then he also says, the inhabitants of more populous city are more prosperous than their counterparts in a less populous one. He gives an example. Let's say you have a trader in rural area, and you have the trader in urban area. Do you think are they same? For example, a judge as an administrative judge in a rural area and an administrative judge in most populated area, because the problem they face, the experience that they are having is so different, and it gives you. That's the reason why our parents, they want us to be like, go to Kuala Lumpur and study in KL. That's because why they are sending you to KL. You understand now. You understand why they wanted you to go to this kind of place, and you are lucky to have it here because you are having so many experiences. That's never going to happen if you happen to be in a remote area, isn't it? So that brings the idea of lives. These are the advantages of the living in the most populated areas. And then also You know that some services are quite often is quick. Today you can see all these things. You order something in 20 minutes, you get it. Right? Who do that? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? Now it's everywhere. So it's been franchised, and then you are getting it today. Last time it will be very difficult for you, because if there is no shop, I still remember before this, the online food items, or even this the same university. I remember when I was a student, if the mahalla is closed, that's it. If mahalla is closed, I studied here, right? I know. I did my master's and PhD from here. So back then, if the mahalla is closed, then I have to, if I don't have any, if there is no bus, then I have to walk all the way outside until I go to that the bus stop, and then outside the junction to the school, and then I go to take the right to go to that place, but to do a blast or whatever it is, it's quite difficult. I mean, I'm talking about that time. So now the time is changing. You don't have food, okay, you just call. It will come to you, right? So these are the things what actually happening when there is more people come. And okay, also this is something funny, but I really like it. He says, when you see houses in more populated areas, the houses, not only human being lives in houses, the same houses also will attract many rats and cats, rats and cats, because even the birds, because they say, because they have full of grains and crumbs of the food. In populated areas, they always have crumbs and grains of the food, because they store, they keep it. Because of the keeping and storing, you always attract many rats and cats. Even birds will come and flock over the head. But but he say, but if you go to homes of the humble and poor person, whose means of support are very, very rare, even he cannot contain so much as a mouse. Even he cannot contain so much as a mouse. So these are the differences. Also he talks about it. Then also he talks about the standard of living and wealth of society will depend on the number of its members. He talks about the other things like infrastructure developments. He talks about it, how it is actually happening in urban areas is because of the people. They are willingly want to do it, and then they are doing it. And when someone built and someone see it building, and then the next day he start building it, right? So these are the things that are happening. Okay, now the other side, he talks about the economic and hygienic factors which will affect the size of population. So this is where actually we can also talk about the COVID-19 issue today. So here he says the same population issue can can also be the same can also become disadvantage for some people, and also there are many factors can also affect to reduce the size of the population. Okay, first he talks about the economic factors, and then later he talks about the moral and social factors. All right, so let's go to the economic factors. The economic factors is actually, he says, when the people lives together, right, and when there is not enough, because the economic factor is actually what, this is what happened when there is when there is more people in a city, and the city needs more labor. When you need more labor, you need more expertise. When you need more expertise, definitely the immigrants will come. He talks about it. He says how immigrants come to other countries, right? Because this is all this is the nature of human life. No country can live with their own people. Every country need experts from outside, and then there is a need from outside, there is a trading from outside. That's the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, رَفَعَ بَعْضَكُمْ فَوْقَ بَعْض. This Allah says, we have created you differently one and another, because bima atakum, because Allah wants to see رفع بعضكم فوق بعض درجات ليبلوكم فيما آتاكم, because Allah wants to test what He has given to us, right? So this is the differences are there. So now every single country needs a different people coming in and offering some services and then get something mutually agreed, right? So now he says when there is labor needed and then there's expertise comes, when there's expertise needed and then the immigrants come in, and then this is where actually economically speaking the place and the accommodation having some issues. And when there is accommodation having some issues, he says that it will create some sort of disease, and that disease will reduce the population. And once the population reduce, then again the city will need more people to come in, because the more people has to become the labor, and then the labor need expertise, and then the expertise will bring more immigrants into it. Then again, it's called population cycle. This is what he brings, the theory of the cycle. Population cycle, because this is where actually the things comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. Now you can clearly see why is that actually we are having this COVID issue, especially every other cities in rural areas. These are the disadvantage. And we talked about advantages. These are the disadvantages, because you cannot see the things are spreading like you cannot see these are things are spreading in rural areas. And you can continuously see the number is increasing. You know, someone said in our academic WhatsApp group, you know, last year 2020, 3 digits of the infected cases was usual, but in 2021 4 digits are usual. The 4 digits of infected cases, because now you can see only above 1,000, sometimes 2,000. Last time it was only 700, 500, 300, right? So I still remember there was a day was only 100 and less than 100, 50 something, you know, infected. So now you can see more numbers are coming and coming, because you can see that's happening only, especially in Selangor and Kuala Lumpur. And you understand the point, because he says that, you know, the population will reduce and then come back again. But it's not like we don't need a population. The population will rise again. That's the reason why the young people will come again, and they will start working again. The new economy will come. Yeah, this is how we are going to talk about the new economy. I think we have a round table discussion. Inshallah, I will be sharing with you. We have on January 19, we have a round table discussion. We have very good, very famous speakers coming from outside, even from UK. So inshallah, I will be sharing with you the link on January 19. Yeah, just remind me if you haven't get from anything. So these are the things that are happening now, the new economy model and everything. Okay, now what surprised me about talking about this population issue, what surprised me is actually there is a cure. There is a cure that Ibn Khaldun already told 700 years ago. I don't know how many of us actually concentrate on his cure. He talks about the solution. How do you handle this population issue? How do you handle this disease? Look at it. He says, the wisdom of leaving open empty spaces in built-up areas, in order that the winds may circulate, carrying away all the corruption produced in the air by animals and bringing in their place fresh, clean air. And this is the reason why the death rate is highest population city. So he says, this is something amazing, you know. It's not actually a problem of, you know, being a most populated country or city. It's the problem of actually accommodation. How far actually we see that, because I have seen some cities outside this country, you know, it's well organized. You know, the authority will come and check how many living in this house, because you cannot see like a place, a house, a room who only 2 members can sleep, you will see there 10 members sleeping, right? Especially the foreign immigrants. They don't have space to sleep. They have to sleep over, and then they have to sleep on top. You can see so many beds in one room. So now also we see, this is not only about people. I'm not actually blaming only the people. I'm also blaming the developers, the capitalist who wants to make more money. Those days, we know that time, there was a 1,200 square, there was a 2,000 square feet, and then there is a very good house. Later it become 1,000 square feet, very good house. Later become 500 square feet. But do you know how many houses? Not one, 4 houses, 5 houses, 10 houses, 20 houses, because the developers wants to utilize that 1,000 or 2,000 square feet, and then they want to build apartments. And you can see that more people coming to apartments, more people lives in that congestion. So now you can see that it comes only from the same land, but the developers are making that money, and then we let that thing happen. It's a kind of capitalistic idea of, that's the reason why you go and you show me any European countries, cities that has more than 4 or 5 floors. You don't see, I mean, I'm talking about the living apartments, not the commercial one. I'm talking about the living, the houses. You can see many Western, especially the European. You go to UK, you see France, for example. I can tell you these two, Paris and UK, London. You see London, and they don't have like 80 stories and 40 stories and 20 stories apartment. They only have very 4 or 5, whereby you don't have lift, you have to walk up, down. That is a kind of very good space that we need to make sure that nobody comes in, nobody. So that kind of I think infrastructure development, that kind of space arrangement needed for any. Today we talk about physical distancing. So alhamdulillah, we changed into it was social distancing. Alhamdulillah, we changed into physical distancing. Yeah, right. I can see some other countries still practicing social distancing. They don't even say hi, salam, anything. So alhamdulillah, we changed to physical distancing, but social bonding. Yeah. Today we talk about it, but how far we practiced earlier this physical distancing of having this kind of. So there must be flow, air. The one thing that we are very much comfortable with actually aircon. We close down all the windows and then we just keep on switching on aircon. I don't know why people do that all the time. I really don't know. I personally don't do that. I also teach my children, don't do that. Always open the window and see what it is coming, right? But what we think that we want to be inside, and then without the sunlight, and that kind of there are so many other diseases may come because of that, right? So Ibn Khaldun talks about it, and also he talks about this is the economic factor. Then he talks about the social factor affecting the population is actually the stress, the work that they are not getting, the payment that they are not getting, the appreciation they are not getting, even sometimes the political and the social will of the people, because sometimes some group of people, some country, there will be some aggressor. The politician might want to kill some group of people, or maybe they want to put them away from the society. This kind of things are happening in some places. Luckily it's not happening here, but some places might be happening. So this kind of moral and social factors also might affect the size of the population. So this is actually what Ibn Khaldun talks about it. Now let us go back to the slide. I think you can see all those things here. Also, we put into some theories, for example, theory of production. So he talks about the human nature of production, right? Social organization of production. So please go through the slide. And international organization of production. All right, and he talks about the theory of value, money, and price. I think most of them he talked about it. Theory of value, theory of money, theory of prices, and then theory of distribution. He talks about the demand and supply. All right, and then the taxes. Talks about the taxes. Talks about the salary, profit. All right, and then the theory of cycles. It talks about the population cycle. Just now I discussed with you. I give you actually more than this. She talks about it, and then public finance cycle, the government spending, and then taxation again. Then these are the some infography for you to for the supply, demand, all right, market mechanism, and price determination. This is how you can see everything together: price, wages, rent, and profit, and then the market structure, the wage differentials in professions like occupations and all, right? Role of prices in economic growth, right? And role of prices in economic growth again, the gain, the price, it will affect all occupation, you know, and then the income will come, all these things. And then the role of government, why discourage the government involved in business, reduce, you know, these are the things are there. Role of the government in finance, revenues, measure of wealth of nations, microeconomic equilibrium, and then the conclusion. Yeah. So I think we almost covered, but we didn't cover everything. Maybe less than half or something. It has, there are many things to talk about it. So I think you got the idea. I wanted to also tell you about 1 minute. You know, I also wanted to if in case you want to know about other economic scholars, actually you can go on. There are so many actually, but we covered only few in our course outline. There are so many others. That's the reason why I ask you to do the data collection, so that you understand, other than these scholars, how many other scholars they have written something on economic matters. All right, so actually you have many things, many scholars to talk about, but everything why we are doing, that's because so that we actually can understand, we are the pioneers of, we the Muslim scholars are the pioneers of today's economic development. That's because if you want to talk about let's say Stuart Mill, for example, no? John Stuart Mill was born in 1806, died in 1873. Right, he was a member of Parliament for city in Westminster. Right, so he talks about the theory of liberty. He talks about the economic democracy, political democracy. Even the rate of the profit. I think this is all not something new to Muslim scholars. Let's say if you talk about Thomas Robert Malthus. So Malthus is actually was born in 1766 and died in 1834. Right, so he also talks about the principle of populations. Right, so he talks about this is all actually, see, he talks about the present of high price and provisions, observations of the effect, and then he also talks about the principle of political economy. I think if you ask me, is it something new? I would say, I would say, and you also can come together with me to say that it's not something new, right? If you want to talk about David Ricardo, he was born in 1772 and died in 1823. He's a British political economist, also one of the most influential classical economists, along with Thomas Malthus, James Mill, Adam Smith. So these are the names that I'm telling you now. So far I got 4 names, let's say 5 names. Let's say I have Adam Smith, John Stuart Mill, and I have Thomas Robert Malthus and David Ricardo, and the other one is James Mill. Okay, David Ricardo, if you want to talk about him, so he talks about the he talks about the international trade, right? And then you have James Mill, who was born in 1773 and then died in 1836. He was also a historian, economist, political theorist, philosopher. Yeah, so he also talks about you know, of course, the politics, mostly into politics, but he has many, many, you know, many contribution into economics. I think mostly, you know, whatever that we can talk about them, if you want to know more about them, it's very simple. There are many articles has been done on them. For example, Adam Smith, you know, most of you know about Adam Smith, theory of moral sentiments, or the inquiry into the nature of cause of the wealth of nation, the book itself, The Wealth of Nations. Yeah. So he talks about the, you know, the theories, many other theories, laissez-faire, you know, this and that. So everything, I'm just giving you an idea to understand, right? All these scholars that so far it's been in English or some other European languages has been documented. These are the noted classical economists. But what I'm trying to prove here, they are not different from us, right? Because they have to act upon their time and their people. They have done it. But if you ask me, who has more documentation in economic related matters? Because just now I gave you a few names, right? Do you think they are pure economists? No. Like for example, I gave you the name of James Mill, right? He was not the pure economist. I mean, none of them is actually pure economists, because they you know, they are different, because some of them, they were politicians, some of them, you know, they were even in member of parliament, you know, some of them, they were actually historians, some of them. So the same thing can apply to Muslim scholars. Ibn Khaldun was a socialist. Ibn Khaldun was a historian. Ibn Khaldun. So Imam Razi was a scientist. Imam Razi was an economist. And also Imam Razi was a, you know, a theologist. Imam al-Ghazali, mashallah, everything. So now, so now I just want to compare. I'm not saying actually they are better or we are not, or we are better, they are not. They have done it. That's because someone has left the heritage. And you need to understand, you and me here to witness that those heritages has been left properly by Muslim scholars. That the footstep, like I told you, now it makes sense. The whatever that I told you earlier at the beginning of few weeks of the class, I told you that how you know, these ideas actually translated and then transformed and then moved to other people because of the languages, right? From Greek to Arabic, and then from Arabic, we are the people who extended. And then after our extension and everything, we are able to translate into other language, Latin languages. From the Latin languages, definitely, these are the scholars that just now I told you, classical economic scholars, they were able to do something. But the world only saw them, because they became the pioneer of economics today, that you and me reading, you and me studying. But the reality is, you and me studying our own scholars, our Muslim scholars, you know, heritage. Remember that. Every single thing that you are reading today, please don't think that you are actually learning conventional economics because it is not Islamic. No. In my opinion, I would say this is purely Islamic, whatever that you are actually doing, because you are doing according to the time and the people. And this is the time. And you cannot separate, you know, Islamic economic thought from this, because this is all, because we are in this together. This is the point that I want to, this is my thesis I want to prove. My thesis is actually whatever that today you are having, conventionally you are speaking, this all comes because of those people that we have only 11 scholars that we so far discussed. These are the scholars are the one who actually brought things to you. And then it was actually advertised and proposed and promoted by the European scholars. That's the reason why today you are thinking they are the classical economic scholars. But the truth is, from where those classical economic scholars learn? Because of the other contributors. the Muslim scholars' contributions. That's the most important thing. And then the list may go on. Maybe it comes from the Greek economist those days. And then Greek, I told you also the Greek economists, how did they learn from these things? It's all from the value added. It's all the values actually can only come from the truth, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because He is the one who actually gives us the hikmah and the wisdom. He is the only one who gives us the knowledge. Because of Him, because allama Adama asma al-husna. He is the one who taught Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Allama. The first Quranic was Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Khalaq al-insana min alaq. Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram. Alladhi allama bil qalam. He is the one who actually taught us. Allama bil qalam. So everything comes from there. So we need to see everything together. So now, if you want to become expert in conventional economics, you have all the right to become the expert. I will be very happy that you go and you become expert, and then you become someone that tomorrow in future who can actually argue to get something like Nobel Prize or something. So that is very good. That is very cool, yeah. You know that there was an Egyptian scholar who actually got the Nobel Prize. So something like that, this is all actually part of our, heritage. I think that's the reason why actually we are teaching this course. Hopefully you have that experience with you. So with that note, I will conclude my class officially. Yeah, so perhaps we can have like a few minutes discussion next class, whereby inshallah I will be talking to you about your final exam preparation. Yeah. Okay, so maybe next class we will start at 2, maybe for a few minutes. We will discuss on your final assessment and final exam. So now, do you have any questions or comments about today's class? Please go ahead, and also please anything that you think about Ibn Khaldun, any comments, please, the floor is yours. Yeah.
I just thought it's very interesting, subhanAllah, how you said that Ibn Khaldun, rahmatullah alayhi, he said that to keep disease away, you need to have open spaces. And then, the Central Park in New York City, how exactly, subhanAllah, it's a huge city, Manhattan, and then right in the middle, they have that little piece of land where, so they actually implement it, and they learn it from us and they implement it.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. That's you see, that's the thing. That's right. We are very happy. We have MashaAllah different people coming from different world. I think now we have United States citizens as well in our class. So I think you have different, because now you can see some countries, some cities are following those things. From the beginning, they are following it, isn't it? So that's the reason why it's not spreading. And then now, when it comes to India, that the number of, it came very late, that. The coronavirus came very, very late to India. But the moment it came, you won't believe the number that it took. The number of people died, oh, subhanAllah, in millions. That's because of that lack of infrastructure. Thank you for sharing. Yes, please go ahead. Anything, the floor is yours. This is our last class for you to talk about, the entire semester, your learning and experience, everything. Please give us your thought. Yeah. Yes, Zainab.
I would just like to say that, subhanAllah, throughout the whole semester, it's been an amazing experience journeying through the lives and the economic thought of all these Muslim economists. And it's so inspirational, subhanAllah, the way they thought and the different aspects that they covered. Some covered taxation, some covered public finance, some covered, for example, like minor things like population and stuff like that. So, subhanAllah, it's been an amazing and insightful journey, alhamdulillah. We got to learn a lot.
MashaAllah. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for sharing your comments. Thank you, Zainab. I know the time is different time zone in your place, but still you were able to, stay awake. Thank you very much. Yes, Afzal, you are there. Go on.
Yes,
anything?
Sir.
Yes, Afzal, anything you want to mention? This is officially our last class.
Nothing specific, sir, but I would just like to thank you, sir, for teaching us throughout the semester, enlightening us on the past Muslim scholars and their contribution. Actually opened up my mind, especially when we've been learning the conventional systems throughout the course of our study. So having the Islamic input from the classical Islamic scholars was actually quite eye-opening, sir, to see how it has evolved and to
Thank
see the
you very much,
contribution.
mashallah. Thank
you,
you,
sir.
thank you very much, Afzal. That's really yeah, that's really has a great meanings of whatever you said, mashallah. That's a great exposure to the topic, right? So that's a kind of awareness we are creating, and we also want you to create this awareness to others. Maybe just put it in this way: this subject is not only for one of the requirement of your bachelor's degree. It is also is for life. Yeah, so you always think that in that positive way. Whatever people do today, it's all because of our Muslim scholars. They started it, so let's do it. We don't see differently. We don't see that, oh no, I'm Islamic, no, this is different. No, don't do that. As long as there is no any prohibited elements directly there, just go ahead and become the one and then do the best thing, because you are the Khalifa and you are the Amin. This Amin is actually someone who is actually truthful, sincere. So maybe the who are not Muslims, it is quite difficult to expect that sincerity. So as a Muslim, you should have that sincerity. So in order to do the right thing, you should be going and working in that industry so that you can bring sincerity to the people. So that's the amazing thing to do. Yeah. Thank you. Any other, please go ahead. I can stay for a few more minutes. Any female students other than Adura? Adura, I'll keep you for the last. I want to hear maybe one or two. Mumtaz, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Why are you quiet today? Why?
Because
Yes.
I have quiz just after this.
Oh, you have quiz after this. Okay. Maybe you are excused to go. But you will tell in the next class, yeah?
Inshallah.
Okay, all right, inshallah. Okay, please. Okay, Adura, your time. Okay, so how are you actually? I heard you. You
Yeah,
told me about it. So Alhamdulillah, hopefully you look good. So hopefully you recovered from
not
what?
not recovered, but recovering. Yeah, I had an emergency operation last week following a few
Okay.
illnesses and
May Allah
everything.
ease everything. May Allah give you speedy recovery, inshallah. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I've had enough comments
Mm,
throughout the semester, but I really like the balance in which this class brings as we go through conventional economics and in studying microeconomics, macroeconomics, and other
mm,
parts, even in finance, even
mm,
in accounting, for example.
mm,
So the balance this class brings actually is quite eye-opening, in which that some people are able to connect it with life itself, some are able to connect it with other aspects of knowledge in the field of knowledge, such as physics, maybe even sociology, maybe even anthropology and culture history. So yeah, I mean, like I really hope that the university would actually like prolong the classes even outside, even provide like independent study groups
mm,
to discover more about Islamic economic thought,
mm,
or maybe not just Islamic economic thought, but also in maybe other fields like
mm.
sociology and
Like
in those areas like Al-Biruni was one of the proponents in
multidisciplinary. Yeah.
yeah, quite that.
Mm, mm,
So, like we talked about, like we could talk about Al-Biruni, who was like a proponent in
mm.
physics, for example.
Yes,
So, yeah, and try to connect that with economics or other fields, and it would
exactly.
be quite interesting. But like,
Exactly.
I'm just so sad that the class is ending.
Please don't be. You already you are qualified now to teach others. That's the only thing that you need to understand now. The reason why we are finishing, because we have given you enough, and the more is actually you will get when you give more. So you can't be the person who always receive. Right? You have to be the person. You remember when Prophet said, "Yadul ulya, yadul sufla, al yadul ulya khairun min al yadul sufla." Al yadul ulya means the upper hand and then the lower hand. The upper hand is always better than the lower hand. So now it's time for you to, give it to others. You
Yeah,
write it down.
just like money, it needs to be circulated.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's not for like what Imam Al-Ghazali said, like say it's alphabets. Yeah, you will not keep the alphabets forever, right? So same thing, money cannot be kept. It has to be circulated. That's the reason why knowledge cannot be kept, must be circulated. And this is many ulama, they said this. Every time you teach, you learn things. This, I'm telling you, this is not only ulama said. This is my, my whole existence based on that. I don't simply say I don't know. Instead, I start reading and teaching. By teaching, I always read. I always learn. This is simply. It is the reason why Prophet ﷺ said, "Khairukum man ta'allama al-Qur'ana wa 'allamahu." The one that the characteristic of the best among you is the one who learn Quran and then teach others. Learning is not enough. It has to be taught. Uh, Teaching, remember that. Today teaching is in so many ways. You have hundreds of ways of expanding your teaching. You can give your comments, you can write. So if someone is putting only the photos in social media, you just go ahead and then write more. So you make your social media full of wisdom, and then keep on doing it, whether people like it or not. Just keep on doing it. So it will hit somebody. It will hit somebody someday. It will hit. But remember this, the three things that Prophet ﷺ said that will never stop. The three things that after you die, one of them is actually wealth, because wealth cannot be kept idle, cannot be stagnant. It has to be circulated. The next one is ilm, cannot be kept alive, idle. It has to be circulated. And then your children that are brought up, your next generation, that you are bringing them, you are making them into a complete human. So this is all three things. Remember all these three things. Whatever the way that you have the opportunity, you do it. Don't say that I don't have money, what I do. Okay, go for ilm, go for knowledge. If you say I don't have knowledge, I don't have money, no problem. Go for bringing a new babies and humans into the world, and then make them the rightful, proper humans. So that's how it has to be given. So now it's time to give, right? So this is the time, alhamdulillah. So no worries, we will be inshallah approaching you